G'day guys, welcome to another weekly developer update. This is CW, and joining once again we have Joe Armenio. How are you, mate?
I'm doing pretty well. Happy to cover what the dev ecosystem has been up to. Took a week off and the fill-in went great. I actually watched it for the first time ever.
Yeah, Chris went well. Had some nice input, some nice comments, and thank you very much, Chris, for stepping into Joe's big boots. It's been a pleasure chatting to you on that one.
Yeah, I appreciate that assistance from the ecosystem.
So yeah, one of the bears rubbed up a post the wrong ways.
Yeah, my internet was down. I actually was working like on car OnStar Wi-Fi, like one bar for a couple days. Fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So pretty exciting week. We had the Hobie listing, obviously, and then just catching up on the dev side of things throughout Discord. It's been another significant update. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the Hobie side, and then we can jump into the dev update?
Sure. So the Ergo Foundation, one of our roles is to open market access for the Ergo token. A lot of exchanges, at the point where we started to actually negotiate, we were still, significantly higher up in like the market cap rank than we are at the moment, which makes things progressively easier as you grow a little bit. But our goal has been to have organic growth, right? There's a lot of projects that people try to compare us to that are tokens on top of systems versus we are a mainnet. And so the level of complexity involved in supporting Ergo on an exchange level is significantly higher than if we were something like an ERC20 token. So sometimes that can take a lot of testing, but it opens the door not just for Ergo, but potentially projects in the ecosystem as well, because that base layer is now supported, and it's kind of like having a wallet. There's a lot of wallets that support Erg, and then everything else Ergo has to offer, right?
Yep.
So we've been creating some tools for future exchange integrations, and I see it as a step. It's a step in the right direction. It's certainly not the first one, not the last one. It's something that we'll continue to work on in terms of opening market access, in terms of exchange infrastructure. And, excitingly enough, we do have a project on the dev update, Rosen, that's also adding decentralized infrastructure where you get cross-chain, potential liquidity, tokens coming into the Ergo ecosystem, tokens moving out into new ecosystems. So we have growth on both fronts, and that's really great to see. I'm sure that's going to be the same type of situation where Rosen, once it's ready, will start with one ecosystem, one chain, and then step to another and go through the process of building out. So I guess we're somewhat parallel in that.
Yeah, definitely. Great to see the ecosystem potentially open up into the wider industry and the opportunities that arise there. You can have people come into, say, a decentralized casino, jump onto Ergo, interact there, and then sort of move off back into their own ecosystem. There's multiple sort of scenarios that open up here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's ultimately where we're headed. I know there's a lot of people that want everything now, and all I can say is, we're doing our best. Please have a little patience with us. We'll get there. We've been growing pretty well, starting from mainnet that was launched from zero. I think we're doing pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that fact also. Basically, starting from zero, you had to provide liquidity. Obviously, there was no blocks, or starting from block zero, there was no erg in existence. So having to build all that up, grassroots. I made a couple of posts about the grassroots community getting together, and it's just kind of like this big snowball effect where once you get that momentum, then you can see this the benefits from that also. So I think at the moment there's a lot of social engagement, and good to see that everyone's sort of interacting and talking about Ergo. It's great.
Yeah, that's, the power of starting from basically nothing, right? Is the first thing you start to bootstrap is a community.
Yeah,
Versus, a lot of projects on top of other ecosystems, they start with a token, so they have some liquidity and, perhaps are able to get access from that liquidity pretty quickly. But the thing they're missing is the actual community that holds up the project. And
exactly.
Ergo kind of did things backwards relative to how the space works, and we oftentimes do. I mean, you can see a lot of development going on in our update this week, where things are pretty far along. Frameworks are coming together. Sometimes they're even on testnet. Sometimes they're even live, and they're tokenless, right? They're building like the actual product first and then coming to market, versus that's just backwards to how things normally occur in this industry.
Yeah, that was actually one of the big draw cards for me to come into the Ergo ecosystem, is that lack of chasing money up front, basically providing developer updates through open Git and open source code, and having a working product, and then building a brand around that product, and then sort of going down the fundraising route. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that drew me into Ergo.
It's the one thing in this space you can't really buy, in my opinion, is community.
Yeah,
you can buy, media access, you can buy market access, but community, that's a different animal.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
nice.
It might be short-lived when we throw some cash around and things like that. But having that really sort of grassroots community, that big foundation to build upon, where people share those same ideals, that's the thing you can't purchase.
So let's get into it. I'm excited to see what everyone's been up to.
Most definitely. So speaking of the bridge, Rosen, do you want to take that one away with MHSM?
Sure. So MHS started actually before the dev update officially kicked off. I guess he had some stuff to do. He's been testing the bridge to ensure the correctness. He's completed transfer in healthy situations. They're still working on finding minor issues, bugs, and improvement potentials. And so that's basically what they're going to be ironing out until they feel it's pretty solid. They have completed a couple of Ergo to Cardano transfers. And he dropped some pictures showing the distribution of reward between the watchers and the guards on a local mainnet. What that means is they're running their own version of Ergo locally, so it doesn't have transaction IDs on the testnet or the regular mainnet. Looks like the long-lasting issue with P2P connection management is almost resolved, and they can move forward. Looks like he's still not perfectly happy with everything, but it's working pretty well. And that will enable them to start testing larger guard sets, which is pretty crucial to that framework.
Yeah.
In the following days, they're going to be working on testing different scenarios of attack, fault, unknown, malicious, fork, and other terrible events that they need to prepare for, to ensure that the implemented measures are robust in different unhealthy situations. That's pretty critical for this type of infrastructure.
Very crucial, because we've seen what happened just this year alone with the amount of exploit that happened on bridges.
Yeah. Looks like the work in progress is the workflow diagram of Rosen is close to finished. He attached a little photo as a sneak peek, and we'll share the full diagram as soon as it's finished. Some additions, modifications are still required due to the testing process that they're undergoing. So it's exciting to see.
Yeah, most definitely. As you can see, there's a transaction ID on Ergo, and a little schematic also.
And looks like they're also, MHS and team are supporting the Minotaur wallet. The multisig functionality is fully integrated, but Minotaur has a syncing issue that they're working on fixing. Releasing the multisig without resolving that would be, he uses the word absurd, which I like. So looks like we're going to need to wait a little bit on their testing and improvement, but that's great to see multisig coming out. There's also an issue in using it in pair with other wallets, the hot-cold pair with different wallet apps. It's a decoding issue regarding the reading of extended public key. So they're working on fixing that too. Pretty big update on both.
Yeah, most definitely. So MHS and the team have been very busy. Good to see everything sort of come to fruition also, having some transaction IDs and getting into the nuts and bolts of actual testing.
Yeah.
So moving on, we just have a short update here from MGpai with ErgoSapiens. So they're just working on implementing the V2 standards with plasma minting contracts, and they're also helping out with Comet. So building the architecture of the lottery contract is planned, and the contract is in progress. Nice to see. And moving on, we have Captain Nemo.
Sure. So Nautilus is mostly working on the GraphQL backend. He's encountered an issue with batch queries and is working on a fix. And it looks like they pushed a new version 0.3.6 this week.
For GraphQL.
Yep.
And moving on, we have MrStahlfelge. The Ergo wallet app version 2.0.2217 has been released with full node detection. The wallet app desktop is reviewed and published with the normal releases, and the wallet iOS has been published on the Apple App Store as a stable on the Zengate account. So it's named Terminus wallet on that one, and that's because it's named like that, as the official wallet has to be published by the foundation, and then they went with this. It's a little disadvantage to have the full-featured Ergo wallet on Apple, but then it's also can be used on the M1 desktops as well through the desktop feature. So they had to rename that just to tie in line with, or just to tie in with the Zengate account. And then on the Mosaik, they started working on the iOS UI implementation.
Nice.
And next up, we have Ladopixel.
Sure. So Lato has been working on a very simple code example for sending tokens in Ergo Python. The next update's a little important. ErgoTutorials.com started a raffle. They've created it for a week in order to encourage people to translate tutorials and maintain the website. He says that even if the raffle is unsuccessful, ErgoTutorials will continue to exist as it does now, but it will not be able to reward translation of existing and future tutorials. So he dropped a link. I'll be donating it to it. I hope a lot of people in the ecosystem can appreciate the work that Lato's done in terms of just providing users, like tools, tutorials, multiple languages. That's been a really exciting community initiative to watch. So I'm going to be hopping on to that later and throwing some erg that way, because it's for a good cause.
Most definitely. I picked up some tickets when I retweeted it, actually. There was actually a comment on that retweet or the post itself, and it was basically someone saying that they can't find any Chinese translations. So if anyone speaks Chinese or Mandarin or something along those lines and wants to provide those translation services, by all means, reach out.
Yeah, that's actually been part of the developer community that's kind of been wanting assistance. I've been in contact with a few that wanted to start getting into ErgoScript, and was hoping that we had a Mandarin-based community, which we do have a pretty large mining base and user base in China. But in terms of the development side, it would be great to see that kick off. So I'll do what I can to see if we can find someone. We do actually have somebody who helps us out with the channel management and some translations.
Yep. Great to see all that come together. And someone might not have the technical ability to be able to offer the developer assistance and things like that, but this is a fantastic way to be able to contribute to the community.
Yeah.
And moving on, we have an update from QX on ErgoPort. So in the added 24-hour graphs for all tracked tokens. They tweaked the API for GetBlock and Neta future rewards and calculations. So thanks to some crowdsourced testing, they created a staking yield check for ErgoPad and the 4 tokens that it supports. You can find that in the command EP help, the screenshot below. Added 24-hour hash rate graph. The bot was added to the ErgoPad Telegram channel, made all bot messages disappear after 30 seconds, just to sort of stop that spamming in the channels. Added EPOS token, so the Ergo point of sale token, to the EP all command, just to show all tracked coins at once, and the ErgoPad list to show the tokens that have been launched on ErgoPad. And they've made an appearance on Dark Cave Miners this week, and it was so much fun. So it was great to host you, mate. It's been a pleasure chatting, and hopefully I'll reach out and create another video with you. As you can see, you've got the chart there and just one of the messages that pop up from the bot. Moving on, we have Alex.
All right, so we got Ergo Protocol Reference Client 4.0.42 this week. That he reworked the feature serializers. So the transaction validation cost is considered in the P2P layer. It's been working on basically getting the mempool optimized. He's also done some other fixes and tests that he needs to review with a couple more PRs around that. He's working on improving memory footprint and the back pressure during the bootstrapping. In other matters, he's reviewed the Dexy contract. He's tracking one in particular that they're working on kind of optimizing, and he's also throwing out to the community, please update him on what to review next. So, you know, those of you that are interested in what's coming next, you can always hop in and ask. That's a beautiful thing about the developer ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. So Alex, you probably say he's not busy enough at the best at times, but yeah, he always offers his services there to jump in and review people's code and contracts and other bits and pieces. So I think that's pretty cool to have that accessibility. Moving on, we have Koutelier with the Comet update. So MGpai, as we touched on earlier, is working on the lottery. So he's written his progress, as we touched on earlier. He's currently working, Koutelier is currently working on the Comet burn feature on the voting DAO. So the Comet holders will vote by burning their tokens. The one token is one vote. In that way, whales can't manipulate the vote without getting wrecked. That's an interesting sort of concept on tokenomics on that one.
Yeah, it is.
So Emporas updates. Emporas is a decentralized e-commerce platform that they're currently developing. And so the home page is done. There's a cart checkout page that's been completed and working on adding categories and waiting for Ilya from Dapstep tutorial so then they can add Ergo Auth.
That's great to see.
Yep. We have Pragmaxim.
All right, so Pragmaxim has been working on the node. He's investigated the reason behind the node getting stuck and what are the inconsistent states. He's been working on an experimental Explorer backend. So he's finished the indexing part, the initial sync and the continuous block pulling. He's now talking with Anon Burr about how it could be used to supplement the current Explorer. And he's going to put it in a GitHub with a README documentation, etc. So people can take it, play, improve, and learn. Great to see.
Yep. Another resource for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Another substantial update here from Luivatra on Paideia. So he's been inspired by MGpai and started a testnet with 1 second block time. It's pretty quick, firing blocks away. So that's allowed him to get to the 5.0 activation fast. So once 5.0 was activated, he stopped mining and then used the node responses to build a mock Ergo client, just like the app kit does for its testing. And this allowed them to perform stable testing of contracts without the external Node Explorer dependence. So thank you, Morphic, for the app kit snapshot with the just-in-time support. And thanks to the JIT costing, the contract work could continue. So the profit sharing is roughly done. Just need some extra pass at some point, and the contract's much more complicated with the delayed rewards and profit sharing, but managed to squeeze 750 stake updates into one transaction before hitting the size limit. Where in 4.0, a staking cost limit hit with only 50 updates. So that's a significant upgrade.
Yeah.
Leaving the new staking setup for a bit just to get started on governance side of Paideia. So quite a bit of work to do on that front. There's a couple of good ideas that need to be implemented with the just-in-time costing, but expects progress to be relatively quick. And then on the Web 2.0 part of Paideia, so logging in through ErgoAuth, they created the proposals and it has discussed them. Just lacking some final finishing touches, and they expect to do internal testing on that one soon if everything goes well and opens up for alpha testing on the back end next week. And this is depending on wallet support with ErgoAuth. I like the detail that Louis provides, the very significant updates, and provides very in detail updates.
Going from 50 to 750, that's a little bit of an increase, right?
Exactly, most definitely. That's the comment here from Apex Theory. So he's available for some more work if Alex can assign some to him, maybe on the mempool.
Sure.
And just a little update also from minergo.io, working on a UI. I believe that's to display, I think it's kind of taking the Ergo mining spreadsheet and just formatting it into a web page and having a lot more interactive and being able to sort of decipher and just correlate all that data into a nice UI. So it's not just a sort of data dump. You can sort of sit there, you can search by GPUs and things like that. So I think that's a huge resource.
No, it is. The spreadsheet, it's been around for a long time, and there's a ton of data there, but it's not very easy to package and search and look through. And having that put together with a nice UI, it's a big tool. I tip my hat that way.
Definitely. And moving on, we have Morphic.
Sure. So Morphic has been working on improving Scala support. Basically, he's been updating the cross compilation of Sigma in Scala 2.13 so that the Sigma library can be used by people that want to use Scala 3. That's a pretty big update. Scala 3 has been out for a bit, and there's a lot of developers that are in Scala that just want to use that particular library. So now we're going to have support for that. He's been working with the Sigma state interpreter, working towards 5.0.1. So he's been going through addressing comments, merging some things that came up, and he's prepared a PR for Alex to review. He's also started restructuring of the Sigma project. They're going through cleaning things out to make it more modular, and it's basically we've created a goal that Nemo is going to be helping, where we're going to make things more modular with Sigma, and we're going to start trying to create a parallel library in pure JavaScript to lower the barrier of entry to development, to where the cross compilation is going to be pretty clean. They were going to name it Sigma.JS. I saw on, I think it was Twitter, that there's already something called Sigma.JS, but
Yeah.
the world's got enough people in it that there's always something called something, right?
Exactly.
So we'll see. I like Sigma.JS and the fleet idea. In terms of his side projects, he's worked on security audit for Wallet app 2.0.2217. Great to see that. Discussions in Discords, various reviews. He's going to continue to work on the Sigma.JS, which ultimately will lead to an SDK, which hopefully will lead to tutorials and videos. And I think that could be a huge driver. Being able to build an Ergo script without needing to learn Scala is a big deal. So exciting times.
Yeah, exactly. We touch on it all the time about sort of lessening that barrier to entry. And yeah, this is another tool to do so. Shout out to Scala.js as well. I saw their little comment on Twitter. So
Yeah.
Moving on, we have greenhat. So greenhat has updated to Rust 1.63 in Sigma Rust, and then added the docs for sub commands in the Oracle v2. So just finishing the PR on setting custom parameters, so min data points, Oracle count, etc., and then the contract updates on Bootstrap, and then just released the Ergo library 0.2.0. So yeah, 0.20.0. These numbers can just throw me way off. And then just also spinning up a couple of nodes on testnet, and the test these new Bootstrap and run the new oracles afterwards. And then besides that, just returning to Ergo chain sim and testing complex scenarios for Oracle v2.
That's good. Yeah, when you get that many numbers, that's how you know they're busy, right?
Exactly. Keep throwing updates out there. And moving on, we have Ilya from Spectrum.
Sure. So he's been working for a long time in terms of Explorer support. That was actually before Spectrum, before Ergo Dex. He was around as kind of the main Explorer dev. And so he still offers support and improves it as he has time, which I have no idea how he actually does have time for that, but he makes it. He makes time. So he's configured a couple GraphQL instances, configurable indexes. Now the Explorer can start scanning the blockchain from a configured height, which is nice to see. He's added missing indexes for unconfirmed outputs. He's eliminated address indexes. He's configured partial indexes to avoid indexing trees of minor fee contracts. He set it up a few extra additional Explorer instances. That's something that our team has been talking about on the back end, just because, well, with the merge coming, there is a ton of potential traffic that could end up in our ecosystem, and anybody that's using a light wallet is going to have a dependency on a server that's running the Explorer somewhere if they're not running Saturgo full node. So those of you that want to be hardened, run Saturgo. That's a great product. Those of you that are running the light, hopefully we can get enough Explorer instances that kind of scale to traffic that if we do get overrun, the servers don't melt and things don't slow down, at least on the light wallet side. Now, what can happen in theory is the light client support gets a little glitchy, but the actual base layer of the network is always humming. So it's why full nodes can kind of protect you in that situation. And who knows what the traffic footprint will be like. That's a big unknown as we move towards the merge, but it's been in discussion. How do we keep that from melting? So
yeah, it's great to have those discussions prior to be proactive instead of being reactive to scenarios like that.
Yeah. And so as a result of Ilya's work this week, the optimizations and syncing processes have become significantly faster. And I believe he also dropped a Medium article that you can take us through, CW.
Yeah, so I'll just transition to that one. So on the Spectrum side, their updates are getting pretty significant now. So they've had to sort of transition to a Medium article to sort of encompass everything. So that's good to see. So the core teams achieved the first notable milestone in the Spectrum network. So an integral part of the network layer. So the peer manager has been implemented. So the peer manager tells the node when and whom to connect to, and which connections should be accepted and which should be rejected. It also maintains the peer scoring tables and more. They can jump onto the GitHub link there. Obviously, true to sort of the Ergo Dex, also the Spectrum and Ergo philosophy, everything's sort of open and transparent on that front. On the Spectrum Dex, so the core update on the Cardano side contracts were migrated to Plutarch v2 and Plutus v2. Cardano Dex SDKs been migrated to Babbage. Cardano off-chain bots have been migrated to Babbage. Cardano off-chain bots have been re-implemented to a monolith service. The field yield farming liquidity mining feature on the Ergo side of the protocol was fully researched, and the smart contracts are in progress. And the top secret feature for the SPF token launch is also in progress. So has the highest priority after the Cardano Dex launch of course. So I guess it's fair to say soon.
Soon. I guess they're waiting on Vassal, and I don't really have time to even track what's going on the Cardano side of their ecosystem. So hopefully soon. I'm sure when it's ready, it's ready.
Exactly. Right? And then so the back end, so there's still some progress there, but in the final stages, they've added support for a version recording of the contracts in Ergo Analytics. And they've also added support for recording off-chain operator rewards in Ergo Analytics. That's necessary in order to request data for future airdrop rewards. And if you want to run, they're actually running their own Ergo Explorer instances, so to keep the application running even under high load. So obviously sort of that touches on what we've just discussed in regards to the Explorer instances. And then on the front end, they're done with the following things. So for the next release is 0.0.7. They've reduced the application loading time from 8 to 15 seconds to around 1 to 4 seconds. That's a pretty significant upgrade, and that's depending on your internet connection. So on average, it's about 3 or 4 times faster.
Nice.
The swap query parameters. So the swap form will not reset on a page refresh. You can also share a pre-filled swap form with your friends just using a link. And the layout for the yield farming liquidity mining feature is complete. And then a couple of bug fixes. The transaction signing after a timeout, so as previously interfaced, created a saved transaction regardless of whether an error occurred or in the request or not. So when the next operation was performed, the user was prompted to sign the previous transaction, and this won't happen again. There was a bit of a hiccup there, so hopefully that is fixed now. So the app will not crash by changing asset places in the swap form. The wrong receiver when refund. So a user could perform a swap that failed and then got locked in the contract. They were stuck transaction. So when they refunded the transaction, the funds went through to a completely different wallet. So that's been fixed. And now that the UI update pending transactions in the transaction history wasn't synced, and just a couple of small mobile UI fixes. And then on other updates, they're preparing all necessary technical stuff for the token launch, and that's it. So pretty significant update
on that one.
Sorry, what was that, mate?
I said you drew the long straw on that one.
Oh, it's great to cover all these things. The more detail and the more significant features, I think it's fantastic that they've grown to such a size where the updates are actually this large.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's great for users to be able to track, follow. And, Ergo, Dex, Spectrum, Network, they don't even have a token yet, right?
Yep.
That's pretty significant. And then you got open source code to boot. So,
yep.
Gotta love it.
Exactly right. So moving on, we have an update from Chris Ray on Excel.
So, Excel. Looks like they created the end-to-end complete for SLT contracts plus some testing. So he goes through the creation proxy, the creation lend, the fund loan proxy, the loan funded, loan to repayment, fund repayment proxy, repayment distribution, repayment complete after non-refundable after completed. So he's taking you through the steps of their contracts. Looks like the big updates for the refund intervals for proxy contracts. They've added time frame to prevent proxy contracts to be refundable as soon as possible. The bot they set up will eat the refund if not implemented. So it'll be refundable after 120 blocks. Also means that proxy will be refunded automatically after 120 blocks. Looks like they fixed exemption for SLT bot and stress testing. Catch-all exemption to end swallow for SLT bot for it to run continuously even when it fails. Running it today on his other laptop, ran it for 11 hours before they caught a new bug. So that's pretty good, right? Yep. Number 4, they implemented repayment distribution to tackle zero interest rate and impossible loan interest. Loan interest that results to zero for profit sharing for protocol owner. They wrote tests to ensure it works. They modified contracts to work. They also implemented so the distribution fails if users try to work around paying back without paying for interest rate profit sharing. And looks like number 5, they investigated and fixed the stuck stage, which was lend to repayment. And that should be number 1, because I guess that's been a bug that's been haunting them, and they finally found it.
Yeah. Another significant update, like we just mentioned. So moving on, we have an update from Dimitri on Sigmaverse. So still migrating for the new backend, updating the database scheme and new projects. So this week, that migration will end, and then we'll add the form to add projects to the website. In parallel, they're preparing a backlog for the Explorer website and Sigmaverse. And the website this week will be have the English, the Chinese and Russian languages as translations. And then also the new technology that they found they can implement on Sigmaverse, which will increase the UX and UI. And it can also be implemented on the Explorer also. So they're just testing it on a small project now. Good to see those barriers of entry and then the translations.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Halley PDLL.
With Blobstopia. So those of you that are new, Blobstopia is a game that's coming together. Haley PDL has put together SafeW, nice wallet build with some nice developer tools built into it. Looks like he's implemented the contract and UI elements for upgradable armors. Next, they're going to set it up to where you can switch and upgrade your weapons. And looks like they're playing around with the PvE event to fight a boss for a jackpot. So it's neat to see.
Yeah, I'll have to jump on there and have a bit of a play because it looks fun. A couple of blobs fighting there. You can upgrade, obviously, that I just mentioned with the armor and bits and pieces. Should be fun. Scrolling down, we have an update from our favorite name, Cheese Enthusiast. So just on GetBlock and subpooling, made some custom infrastructure on their block net. And then the layer 2 side of things, after many long nights, he's created a succinct and non-interactive deterministic share-proof algorithm. So he can prove that a miner did some arbitrary amount of work using a minimum of around 500 bytes and a maximum of 6,000 bytes. The initial tests had 95% accuracy, but tuning the parameters may allow this to go even higher. And now it's just about formalizing the algorithm and trying to find any weak points or places where bad actors can take advantage of it.
Nice. All right, so next we have Ergo, our favorite cat dev. Looks like ergonodes.net has some updates. They've added a browse all nodes section, and the nodes with unavailable countries are shown in the top 10 countries list. And those of you that want to participate and be shown on ergonodes.net, runs that Ergo wallet.
Definitely. I'm proud to say that I think there's 4 nodes here in Australia currently. So let's boost that number.
Yeah.
Next up, we have update from Swamp Audio and Terahertz. So the alpha version of the Ergo DAP connector for the Composer and PHP is now live on their GitHub. So this connector proposes a novel solution to the PHP systems not currently running the JS backends. So it utilizes Lambda to run the Sigma Rust arguments. It also utilizes Alpine.js to persist session storage for the DApp connector participants on the front end. So this authenticates as either a simple DApp connection for the user session or further into a Web2 authenticated session within the Laveral's user area dashboard. The initial publish of Laveral app, so blank with no content, is included functional Nautilus authentication for the logins. You can jump onto the PR there if you wanted to check that out. Scrolling down, we have another little update on GetBlock from All Cloudy.
All right, so GetBlock has been busy. I'm sure they're quite busy preparing for the merge too, but they've deployed Mainnet Explorer UI, API, and GraphQL for community use, which means they're helping us out to create some redundancies in the event we see a sudden invasion of traffic. And so then they drop the mainnet links below. So those of you that are interested, check it out.
Yeah. Just speaking with Rob on the Dark Cave mining side, we touched on some infrastructure implementations that they've sort of deployed just with the lead up to the merge. So that they're even sort of thinking about that influx of users and bandwidth requirements by having a lot more miners come into the ecosystem.
Yeah, they know what they're doing over there.
Yeah,
it's a potential. We've been having the same talks internally.
Yeah. Next up, we have Cyber Citizens. So they fixed a furniture bug that when you entered an apartment a few times in a short amount of time, that the furniture duplicated. It'd be pretty nice if that happened in real life. So they added apartment board UI. You can see live furniture in the icon of the apartment. So they finished loading apartments UI into the API.js. They've also added their own cursor for the game, added full screen, added background on the start when you select the character, and Smart Move is in progress, but a lot of it has been completed. It's just on the building side, they've recreated the club building and Wave 3 drop. So they created a trailer for their upcoming drop of the Wave 3, so it's not published yet. They can't post any links or files. They always get muted from the bot, so hopefully we can sort of sort that out for them. So scrolling down, just a little update here from Low-Key Ned on Blitz TCG. I can see you've been added as a trading card, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm an emoji now. That's a feather in my hat that I didn't know I'd ever have. So appreciate that, man.
We should see some more of those throughout the updates. It'd be fun to see. Just scrolling through, we have Night Owl.
So on to Night Owl. They continue to make good progress across the board. They're still working on proxy contracts and some back-end work to integrate with the front end, and then, of course, testing. The front end, the coin flip animation completed. They're implementing Matomo Analytics, which will be completed this week. Working on KYA modal. Backend, their new Matomo Analytics server stood up, fixed several bugs in the backend services. They've been working with Andy on a promo video that's almost complete. Still gathering contributions and support for hashtag Discover Ergo Day, which is September 15th. It's a community initiative to try to raise awareness for Ergo, for new users, new miners, just new people in general. And it looks like they have created a fund to support the top 20 tweets, which is pretty huge to see. That's something that the Ergo Foundation had no part of, but I love seeing those grassroots campaigns come together. And so let's see next update. I think we'll maybe, next update we might see that come out.
Yeah, definitely. purely organized by the community, and they've even gone out, reached out, and got some funding also. So it's great to see.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
That's it.
So another significant update this week. What was your sort of pick of the interest there?
I'm always happy to see just good development practices, right? Where nothing's being rushed to market. They're saying, okay, this is where we are. This is what we need to work on. And this is what we need to test. And then they come back to next week. This is what we found testing. This is what we need to work on. And this is what we need to test. And sometimes software development, even though it is like the back end of, the entire crypto space, is not sexy. Sometimes the marketing side and that aspect of our industry can be very flashy, but really it's just grinding behind the screens that gets things done. And I'm seeing a lot of that. So happy to read through, update myself, and hopefully educate some people out there as to what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I think it pays testament to the developers also by having everything open, or a lot of things open and transparent. You can jump into the GitHubs and things like that, and that's advertising in and of itself. Just being able to sort of see that the actual development is happening, I think that instills a lot of confidence into the end user and someone who may potentially be looking to invest.
That's the beautiful thing about open source ecosystems, in my opinion, is that that transparency allows for a type of community that you just can't have otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Because if I want to be a part of a community, but I can't even see inside, to see what's happening, track, participate, what can I do other than just kind of be a mouthpiece? And so I think that having that transparency really goes a long way.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for tuning in for this week's developer update. We'll hope to see you next week. Joe, it's been a pleasure chatting once again.
Yeah, always.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a great one.